Hello, internet friends, and welcome to Legion Alpha Beta First Pass coverage summary of the most time I have ever tested a spec thus far of the Arcane Mage. Like 4.5 hours. Mostly because of this particular ability right here, which I'll get into more in a minute, but let's go over some things that have not changed, and then I'll go through some things that have heavily changed that really impact and completely, like, the whole rotation from Warlord, which you know of the Arcane Mage, just forget about it. It's dead. Well, remember it for now, but then forget about it in a couple of months, because it's gone. So some things that have not changed with the Arcane Mage. So obviously have Arcane Blast, Arcane Missiles, Arcane Barrage, Arcane Explosion, Arcane Power, Evocation. That's your core abilities right there, of course. Your passive has changed to some degree. Now you don't have charges of Arcane Missiles, you have Arcane Charge, which are generated by these little balls underneath the default player frame right here. Right? So you can count 4 of them. Arcane Blast will give you 1 per charge, as well as a cast, which you can cancel, of Arcane Missiles, gives you a charge. And Arcane Charge synergizes with and is used by certain abilities. So it increases the damage per charge and mana cost per charge of Arcane Blast, or casting Arcane Blast in succession, right? So a 100% higher mana cost per cast, per orb, and then it's a 50% increased base damage plus your mastery. Don't look at the rest of it. I'm trying to cover up the screen. Don't look at the rest of the mastery right now. Arcane Charges increase the damage of affected spells by an additional percentage, and that adds on to the default of 50% bonus. Arcane Missiles grants a charge, deals more damage per overall cast, or per wave, if you want to look at it that way, per Arcane Charge. Arcane Explosion has a 30% chance to generate a charge if at least 1 target is hit, and then Arcane Barrage will consume all charges, increasing its damage done by the same percentage, and it hits 1 additional nearby target per charge used for 50% additional damage, so it's up to 4. So its main target plus 4. I can't really test that against these dummies. I could go hit some mobs, but who has time for that, right? So, but it should be the main target for full damage, and then 4 nearby targets at 4 arcane charges for half of the damage the main target gets hit for. Remember that for later a little bit, but Mage Armor gives you passive mastery, harmful magic effects on you are reduced by 24%, same as on live. Still have Time Warp, still have Teleport, still have Slow Fall, Spell Steal, Slow, Portal, Polymorph. Frost Nova is baseline. Also, Greater Invisibility is baseline for the Arcane Mage. Ice Barrier, baseline. And Evocation. Displacement is new. It's a 90-second cooldown. For the next 4 seconds, casting Blink will no longer trigger its cooldown. So normally, you know, Blink is like, 15-second cooldown. Sure, right? That's how it works. And, but now, which I'll wait for the cooldown real quick. Boop, 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 boop. What was that boop, boop there? Probably Discord. If you cast Displacement, you can blink and blink and blink 3 times with no cooldown, and your 4th blink, of course, will be a cooldown. Counterspell is still counterspelling people. You still conjure refreshments. Arcane Power now, we'll start going into what has changed. Arcane Power, 20% more damage dealt for 15 seconds. Also reduces the cost of your spells, your damaging spells, by 10% mana during the duration. Okay. I'll show off Arcane Orb real quick here, because I will be specking away from it very soon. There's Arcane Orb. There's Supernova. Arcane Missiles. Arcane Missiles could use a new graphic. There's Barrage. Here's Blast. Missiles again. And Barrage. Right? And, going over Arcane Power now that it actually reduces the mana cost, it is incredibly beneficial to cast a bunch of spells during Arcane Power, right? Why is that? I mean, right now it makes you things cost more mana and does more damage, of course, but the mana component is totally changing in Legion. All right, Savant is your mastery, which increases your mana regeneration rate and maximum mana by a large percentage, the full benefit of your mastery. And then the Arcane Charges percentage is a percentage of your maximum mastery, right? It just drops down. So, mana regen and maximum mana. Okay? Evocation, which is here now with all the talents I have. 1.5 minute cooldown, 90-second cooldown. You immediately are granted 25% of total mana on the cast, and then another 75% of your total mana, or in layman's terms, all of your mana, over the next 6 seconds, reduced by haste. So evocation now is your entire mana bar when you use it. So the floating at like high mana weirdness in Warlords is dead. The main bread and butter of Arcane and Legion is you're going to burn your mana, you're going to evocate, then you're going to kind of float. We call this the, what we coin this now? The floating point, or the float point. Because what you want to do on the, like, say, a build with Arcane Orb, for example, or Overpower, which just casting Arcane Missiles extends the Arcane Power duration by 2 seconds, or gives you a free cast of Arcane Blast, right? What you're going to want to do is kind of burn your mana, evocate, float for a little while, save enough mana, so when Arcane Power comes back up, you'll go crazy again, and you kind of want to time your use of Arcane Power to make sure that with the Arcane Power duration, and then shortly after it, you'll be running and then you'll evocate again. Sorry. You'll evocate again, right? You'll fill your mana back up, then you'll float a while, you'll find your floating point based on your mastery. How long can you float at 4 stacks before you have to barrage, and then restack, and then barrage, and then restack, and then barrage, right? To keep your mana floating. And then you'll burn your mana again in a overpowered window with Arcane Power, and then you'll evocate and you'll repeat. This changes completely if you take Quickening, right? Look at the tooltip. Arcane Blast, Arcane Missiles also grant you 2% haste for 6 seconds up to 100 stacks, and the effect is cleared when you cast Arcane Barrage. Now, to back up to a core component real quick here, Arcane Missiles has a 30% chance to be activated after each damaging spell is cast with 3 charges maximum. Arcane Missiles also costs no mana. So, during Overpowered, with Arcane Missiles being cast faster and faster with more haste baseline, because you're going to stack haste, normally as you do in Warlords, you stack haste for Overpowered, there is a huge change afoot. Quickening, however, I illustrated this in my VOD, and if you have missed past testing, or want to watch the entire VOD, or if you want to see other classes I have tested, please refer to my channel guide over on twitch.tv /FinalBossTV. You can find the channel guide linked there, or as !guide in my Twitch chat. I link everything there, the whole VOD is there, all my past testing. So you can watch me test Quickening multiple times. And with my crappy gear I have now, I actually kept up 100 stacks for multiple windows of Evocate right into Arcane Power, and even like Rune of Power nonsense. And the burst window was insane. I had like 240% haste, something ridiculous, because of the base haste I have, plus a trinket proc and stuff like that. And it changes drastically because the float period, the float point for the Quickening build is so much longer because you can just dunk so much mana so much quicker. I will try to show off the Quickening build in this video live, but we'll see how that works. But Overpowered plays very much how it plays now, probably a haste-oriented build, where you will, dunk your mana, you'll Arcane Power on the pull, you'll dunk your mana, you'll refill it all the way up to full, then you'll kind of float around in 50% mana or 40% mana or wherever you can with your mastery, and then Arcane Power will come back up. If it lines up, of course, with what you have, you can Arcane Power into a little null zone, into dumping your mana before you can evocate again. That's how it's going to work. Whereas Quickening, the most benefit comes from having tons of Quickening stacks, evocating, and then immediately going Rune of Power into Arcane Power and just slamming in spells. Just going absolutely crazy. But then because you'll dunk so much mana and you gotta wait for like almost a minute for evocation to come back up, but you don't want to drop all your stacks, you'll have this weird cast a spell and then wait for your mana regen, and then cast a spell and then wait. And if you get an Arcane Missile proc, you can cast the spell and then wait. It's weird. It's kind of hard to explain. I'll show it off toward the end of the video. It made a lot of us in chat today while we're testing this. It was so much math and timing and windows and delays and whatnot that it's very hard to figure out right now without having, more to test in the game. But Other talents that are the same. Nether Tempest is still here. We went through a ton of Nether Tempest math today because it works really well with quickening, because the dot will have more ticks on the single target to do more damage, as well as the ribbons, the arcane ribbons that fly out. More of those will fly out. So just doing more damage. Nether Tempest looks really good with quickening because it feels like it's a good filler when you're like not casting a ton of spells. Unstable Magic is still here. It's just a multi-strike chance on Arcane Blast for Arcane to deal 50% additional damage to the target, and then it AoEs for 8 yards around it. Erosion is just a stack. It's just a 10 stack for 1% increased damage on your target, and then after 3 seconds of not doing damage to the target, the spec will start falling away. It's just a passive 10% damage if you are attacking a target. It does stack multiple times with Arcane Missiles, and of course it does cleave with Barrage, if you have the stacks to actually cleave the Barrage. That's all that's there. We'll go back to another Tempest, though. Ice Flow is the same, Ring of Frost the same. Ice Ward is 2 charges on Frost Nova, which again is baseline for the Arcane Mage. Supernova doesn't have charges anymore. It does do 100% extra damage to the primary target, of course. 25-second cooldown. Still has the micro knock-up. Still goes burst AoE. Charged Up gives you 4 charges of Arcane charge instantly on a 30-second cooldown. Good for burst, good for controlling, maybe good for AoE, because then you can go to 4, you can do a 4-stack barrage, and then you can charge it up and do it again, right? Maybe. Also with Arcane Orb giving you an Arcane charge on cast, and every time it deals damage, you can sort of like Arcane Orb, Barrage, Charged Up, Barrage. You can kind of have some burst windows there, if it's any good. Words of Power we'll switch to right now is you channeling Evocation gives you 1 charge of Arcane Missiles every 2 seconds. Really good for quickening, because you're going to evocate into an Arcane Power. This will give you 3 stacks of missiles, which currently, based on the current amount of damage that is being happened right now in the Alpha Beta build, spamming Arcane Blast at 4 stacks is great, but Missiles does more damage at 4 stacks. Missiles is like your best bang for your buck button for all your damage. Like, Missiles is super important. It is the highest damaging source by almost double. 1 4-stack, so 1 cast of Arcane Blast at 4 stacks of Arcane Charge, actually did about half the damage as 1 missile cast at 4 stacks of Arcane Charge. That different. Incanter's Flow is the same thing. Rune of Power is different now, where it is a cast drop at your feet. It has an 8-yard circle of forgiveness, basically, where you can walk around it and still gain the buff. 10-second duration, 10-second cooldown when you cast it, but it's a 50% damage amp during the duration of Rune of Power. 50%! It's a lot. Mirror Images, no change. Ice Block, 2 charges, 30-second hypothermia, so you can't chain them back to back. Cauterize, same thing, has built-in Burning Rush, so 35% health will be the heal if you take fatal damage, and then you'll burn for 28% of your max health over the next 6 seconds, but you gain Burning Rush. Shimmer is when you take damage, 30% chance the cooldown of your blink is reset. Torrent increases your Arcane Barrage damage by 25% for each target it hits. I would assume 125% is the cap, 1 target plus 4, but it does increase all of them's damage. All of them's. The main target, and then all of the cleave. Again, remember, the cleave barrages are half damage, but this will, of course, increase that and then cut in half. The new Presence of Mind is 4 Arcane Blasts will be instant cast with a 1-minute cooldown. Right now, this kind of is weird because you can store it up before a fight. You can, like, cast it and let the cooldown go down, and then you can just recast it again. You can pull the boss with Presence of Mind up, 4 Arcane Blasts, recast Presence of Mind, 4 Arcane Blasts. So it has a burst potential. I'm not sure if it should have a duration or if the cooldown should start after you use the 4 Arcane Blasts, but we'll see how that works. And I have Arcane Familiar Talented here, which I'll be using with this test for quickening, because Arcane Familiar gives you 10% maximum mana, and it just, it randomly attacks things. It's a little, like, Elemental Geode. Elemental Geode, man. But it just has an Arcane Barrage. It's an instant cast on a cooldown. It has no pet bar. It has a little buff here where you can click it off and it will not go away, apparently. I didn't know that. But alright, I'm going to try to show you quickening real quick here. Because this, I'm just going to dunk my mana. I don't care right now. I'm just stacking up quickening stacks. We're not doing anything crazy right now. But I'll kind of show you how the spec works. I'll, of course, use missile barrages because I don't want to stack up to 3 randomly. But I don't know how best to explain this. I will caveat this while I start building up these stacks that I do not play a mage on live. I've played some Fire Mage quite a bit. I've tested some Fire Mage, obviously, on my channel. But I have not played a mage. I don't play a mage on live right now, so I am very much a novice. A lot of this information has been helpful because of what I've been learning from chat today. I'll put up... oops, I barraged there. No big deal. We'll restack our 4 stack here. I don't really care about the stacks right now. I just want to kind of show you. I did mess it up because I barraged on accident. Let me move barrage off of here. Get out of here, barrage. I don't want to accidentally hit you. So we're going to be at 6 stacks here. I'll try to get one more cast off. So then we will evocate. We will arcane power. Oh, I canceled it. See, I knew I was going to mess it up. Damn it. I knew it was. It took me like 2 hours of testing live to get this to work. You can't cancel the evocate early. You need to really wait. I'll keep building up for a little while here. It's not going to work. Damn it. I messed it up, friends. Well, I didn't show off the new shaman spell, and I know this is going to be weird to test. It's difficult to test this because of how cooldowns work, and then, of course, I'm recording this all live. But I'll wait real quick here and see if it comes back up with enough time to record. Probably not. Ice Flow still does Ice Flow things. But, ooh, Ex-Lua era. But, I don't know how to explain this better without showing you. I show you this in the VOD, I do it 3 times. But, like this spec tortured my brain the most because of so much small, very important math timing and, like, buff watching and making sure you're not messing this up. I'll start restacking again here, just to see if I can get a slight quickening build. Again, with this crappy gear I'm wearing right now, I managed to keep a whole 100 stack up for quite a long time, for 2 or 3 rotations of an entire build. But let's do this real quick here. I have a couple stacks here, so we'll just evocate right now. We will missiles to keep the debuff up. We will cast Rune of Power into Arcane Power. We'll missile. We'll Arcane Blast. We'll missile. We'll recast our Arcane... There we go. We're going to Arcane Blast. We'll missile again. Again, missile's the highest source of damage. We'll do that. We'll cast a new... The rune system is so weird because you have to recast. It's such a huge damage amp. But right now, we are going to be in this weird floating period where I have to maintain enough mana to keep doing some damage and recasting this, but not dunking it all the way because I have to wait for evocation to come back up. So we're going to kind of cast at about 1 second here. I'll cast the missile right there because they're free. We'll refresh. We'll wait for our timer up here. We're looking up here. And we'll recast there. Nothing procced. We'll wait for it to be 1 second. We'll wait for it to go down here. I'll cast 2 there because I have the extra mana because the Arcane Missile's procced here. We'll Arcane Missile on 0 because it's instant. We'll refresh our Nether Tempest. You cannot use your Rune of Power right now because you are really waiting for those burst windows. No proc, we'll just wait. We're at 38% mana. We've got 15 seconds on Arcane, Evocation coming back up. All the Arcane this and Potency that and Arcane this. And so we're at 38 now. I think we'll just go for it. We'll cast this here. We'll refresh. We'll cast again. We got a Missile proc. I'll hold that. I'll do 2 missiles right now to keep the stack going. We'll do 1 more because our mana came back for that one. We will evocate. Missiles. We'll rune. Arcane Power. Missiles. Refresh. And we'll get a Arcane Blast. Missiles. Arcane Blast. We'll Arcane Blast again. I'll put up Heroism to go even more ham. You'll see the stacking haste right now is going a little bit crazy with the Nether Tempest in the background there. We'll get 2 missile procs back to back. And now we're basically in this really bad spot where I was finding out when I was testing that you have to float now to try to keep these stacks going for a very long time with very little mana. And of course with more mastery, look at the Nether Tempest going. Boop, we refresh there at 1 second. We'll let it go a little bit more. We'll refresh here. We'll restack that. Nether Tempest does snapshot based on your current arcane charges, which is just fine. I'm recasting it all at 4 anyway. We're going to keep going. This video will be a little longer than my 20 minutes, but this is a brand new way to play this game, or this spec, rather. We'll go one more time. We'll keep refreshing. It's very weird to play this way. It's going to fall off, isn't it? Yep, it fell off. Well, that'll be it then. I don't know what to say about this spec more than overpowered plays like it does on live, and quickening plays very differently, where you're going to want to evocate right into arcane power and into your rune of power and just go crazy. And it's very possible to turret and stack up 100 stacks. But it's a lot of maintenance and it's a lot of mastery is really important for this build. And I think it's very compelling how good it will be on like progression when you can't like always just stand around and turret. Granted, you can move with ice flows and keep your stack up, but that 6-second window is so damning. We'll have to see if that becomes a thing. Overpowered is kind of the easier way to play. Haste-oriented build, just kind of do the same like A-B rotation. But quickening is just, if I'm getting this right, and what chat helped me out today with figuring out how quickening would work, a huge skill cap, like vastly different than overpowered. And then Arcane Orb is like an AoE version of the spec, and it's kind of more simple anyway, too. But quickening versus overpowered, totally different realm. Because you want to keep those stacks up. Because if you can stay at 100 and maintain that, those burst windows with a Rune of Power down and Arcane Power rolling, you are going to just be... Missiles are on like a 1-second channel time for 5 waves. With your artifact power in the future, you get more waves of missiles. There's an artifact power where the more mana you regen during evocation, you deal damage to your target. So you always want to make sure you're evocating at super low mana anyway. So you're going to always burn your mana. You're going to evocate to full. You're getting your missile charges from Words of Power. You're going to gain more missiles from your artifact, which we'll test in the second pass, of course, more. But this is the Arcane Mage in Legion, and again, my longest testing I have done so far. 4.5 hours. Go watch that VOD if you want to. Thank you all so much for watching. Hopefully I got the point across that this is a bit of a spec change entirely. Hit that like button. Helps me out more than you could know. Subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. Again, check out my channel guide for the rest of my coverage. Subscribe, of course, if you want to just all the other content I'm doing here. And I will see you in the next Legion spec preview. My goodness.